Hi, I'm here to show you a little bit about using the XYZ printer with the Autodesk 123D apps. So I've been using the 123D Design app and the 123D Sculpt Plus app on the iPad to make objects for my 3D printer. And what I wanted to show is how do I get those to my 3D printer and maybe be able to print more than one at a time? So here is my little tutorial on how to do that. There's a few things that you need to get moving. One is you need to download a little application called Autodesk Meshmixer, which I've already installed. What my end result I'm trying to do here is put my 3D objects in one space and make sure that they're going to print properly. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with a new window here. So the first thing I want to do when I've got my 123D Meshmixer open is that I can download my models from the 123D cloud. I can open files or I can import files that I've already worked with. So I downloaded a sample of R2D2 from a website, and here's my R2D2 model, and I'm going to hit open. And R2D2 comes in like this. He's kind of big. He's kind of sticking through the MakerBot replicator window there. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make sure that, well, he's already selected, but I can view my objects browser and have that kind of handy because it's necessary for this procedure. So the first thing I want to do is I want to hit the edit button here, and I want to align and accept him. All right, so now he's above the stage here, not sunken halfway through. So the next thing I want to look at is the transform area in the edit button here. So R2D2 is kind of big a little bit, so I can modify all these lovely little things to change R2D2 around a little bit here. So if I have uniform scaling selected, I can hit the X scale here, and I can modify all three directions at the same time. So I'm just going to change X to 0.5 or otherwise 50%. And hit the enter key, and all three of those angles change at the same time. While that's up and down, I can use these three little arrows here to move R2D2 around. So I'm gonna, if I hold the option key down, I can rotate around and kind of orbit around the objects. I can also use this red button here to tilt R2D2 back. I think in general, I might be wrong, that 3D printing tends to work a little bit better with the bulk of your mass down, especially with rounded shapes. So I've got R2D2 on his backside here. And then I'm going to hit the accept button. All right, so now R2D2 is on his backside. But with 3D printing, you normally need something flat. So you make sure that your 3D printer has enough to attach the object down to your printer bed. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that R2D2 is flat on the bottom here, or at least held up so that he prints out nicely so he's attached to the printer bed. To do that, if I hit the analysis button on the left side and I look for the overhangs button here, I click on the overhangs and it tells me what areas it can help support, all right? So I want to click on the support generator button here, and I want to make sure that my base diameter is a bit bigger. The reason why I want that is I don't use glue on the 3D printer, and I want the object to stick. So the bigger the base diameter is, the better it's going to stick to my 3D printer. I want to have my contact, I can mess around with these sliders a little bit, but I'm still learning, so I'm not exactly sure what all these sliders do at this stage, but I do know that the base diameter is important here, because that basically makes a bigger blob on the bottom underneath my 3D print. Now the next thing I'm going to hit is the Generate Support button. And it builds these little support modules underneath my 3D print. So here I've got those little this is what I was talking about when I was talking about the base diameter. These little circles underneath here are generated with that base diameter. So I want them a little bit bigger because I want more contact with the base of my print head to make that work a little bit better. Okay, so I have my first model in. I'm gonna go back to the edit button and I'm gonna hit the transform button so I can slide R2-D2 over a little bit with the red arrow here. So that way I can bring in another object. Now, there's a couple different ways of getting in another object. One is to go to File and import 123D. That will take you up to Autodesk's website and download it through Meshmixer. I find that this method is quite slow. A faster way is to navigate directly to find the thing on your Autodesk account and edit and download that object. That will give you a zip file like this one in your downloads area. So here is my next object. So if I go back to Meshmixer and I am going to import, this time I'm going to append the file because I want more than one space in there. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder. I'm going to find my folder, and here is my STL file of that object. I'm going to hit open, and now it is downloading that object and importing that in. So here's my object. It's flipped upside down. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to my edit. I'm going to hit the transform button, and I'm going to rotate one of my angles here 180 degrees and accept. Let's just make sure that worked again. Otherwise, I can just use the blue angle here and I can flip him over. But I just want to make sure that equals 180 degrees exactly. Although I guess it doesn't really matter that much because I'm still going to create supports anyway. All right, so I'm going to use the green arrow to lift them up a little bit and move them a little closer to R2-D2, doesn't really matter that much. All right, and then I'm going to hit accept. So now I've got my object here, the detail side is up, and I'm going to go in and use just like I did before, the analysis button here, calculate the overhangs. I'm going to look at my support generator and make sure that I've got a wide base diameter, somewhere around 20 millimeter. And then I'm going to generate support. So now I have a second object in right next to R2-D2. And then my next thing to get ready to go out, so I've got those two objects together. I'm now going to take that and hit export. Now, I have an XYZ printer and it understands this STL ASCII format, ASCII2 format.stl. So as long as I go in here and I give this a name that it can understand, and I save that somewhere, all right, I can now save that file, get that ready for my Autodesk get into my XYZ program, and I can then print that lovely thing out. So now that that's saved, I'm going to save my Meshmix, just so that if I do need to make a change, I can. So I'm going to save this file as a, let's give that a, so this is a .mix file, so this is for Meshmixer, which makes it a little easier to modify your file later. So now that I've got this saved, I can go back in, edit this in. If the supports didn't work out, I can delete them and try again. All right. So now that I've got that file saved, I can then quit Meshmixer, and I can go into my XYZ printer, so the XYZware app, and I can then import from my desktop my STL file. So this one turned on its side. So I just go back in here and I change my X angle to 90 degrees and enter. And now it's sitting down flat. And then I can land the object and get ready to slice this up and print it. So hope you liked my little tutorial on how to get your 3D printer objects into one plane. I'll have a time lapse ready for you in just a moment of a very similar file to this one. Thank you for watching.